Laremy Tunsil back in the fold. That's not news or anything. It's been a couple days that we've known this now. I think that it is a surprise still to some of us that thought there was a good chance Laremy Tunsil would be traded last year. And I think it's a great example of being really careful about judging who, what there is. Excuse me a second. When they're in a bad situation, because the Texans were a dysfunctional situation not too long ago. And I think that there were a lot of guys like Justin Reed or Laremy Tunsil or other, like, honestly, good dudes who chafed against a whole lot of messed up stuff that was going on. I think it's a sign of where the franchise is right now in a much better place that guys like Laremy Tunsil will just openly gush over Nick Caserio, over the organization. And I know it's easy to say, well, look, of course Laramy's going to gush over the place. They just gave him, they just made him the highest paid offensive lineman in the league. Tunsil had options. I don't think Tunsil would have stuck around. I think Tunsil could have forced a trade if he really wanted to, or at the very least waited until free agency next year and gone elsewhere and gotten maybe even more money next year in the offseason. So I think it's a genuine sign that we are back on track with the Texans, the way a lot of us has felt. I don't usually get too excited about player press conferences, and it's not like Laremy Tunsil said anything earth-shattering in his press conference, but I thought he said some things that were unique and spoke to, I think, who he is as an individual, who he is as a business person, who he is, who some of his advisors are, because we got to get into some of the Saint Omni stuff, as well as just what kind of a leader he can be for this team and what it means. So I'm just going to get into his press conference yesterday. It wasn't a long one, and listen to some of it. And we've got some Ian Rapoport. We've got some Pat McAfee show. We've got some Denzel Perryman audio. We've got Laremy going against Micah Parsons last year. We've got Laremy Tunsil in the NFL's top 100. It's a Tunsil palooza with some Denzel Perryman, a little bit of Corey Littleton, and some Daniel Jeremiah at the end. It's just a potpourri of genuinely interesting dudes in the NFL right now. So we start off with him kind of reclining in a sweatshirt that I'm guessing is way more expensive than any sweatshirts I would wear, and looking generally like a dude in full command and control of the universe right here.
Brandon Scott, Sports Radio 610.
That's Brandon Scott, Sports Radio 610, friend and colleague of mine. Awesome dude.
Why is it important for you personally to kind of have the control over these deals and to not have an agent? And when for you did that become important going into your career and negotiating a contract?
I always wanted to be a CEO of my business team. Like, I always wanted to be like the guy that leads this team, like leads my team. So I hired the team, which includes of Saint Omni, Lalo Sani, and Alexandra. And I just wanted to do something that's never been done before, right? Making history for the second time in a row. Nobody has ever done that besides me. So I always wanted to be like the leader to start something new, and that's what I did.
Okay, so this is where it gets fascinating for me. Like, as a player and myself, I did this myself. Look, all of a sudden you're making a really good chunk of money. Not as much as Laremy, but making a really good chunk of money, and you've got your dreams growing up of being a business person, and sometimes you start to assume you're a better business person than you actually are, just because look, I'm making a lot of money and that's what business people do, when really you're working for wages, really, really, really good wages, but you're not like a classic business person with employees or customers or anything like that. You're working at a job. So a lot of times what guys do is they'll get out over their skis and start trying to act like businessmen and not necessarily be able to do it all that well. I think Laremy, and you could tell this like from when he first showed up in Houston, he's got a certain presence about him. He's got a timbre to his voice and a confidence that I think, like, Laremy's going to be a genuinely successful business person, whether he's representing himself or with that team of people he mentioned, including Saint Omni, who I will explain to you who Saint Omni is kind of later, as more of a picture of Saint Omni, this shadowy figure in NFL circles whose name's starting to come up more and more. We'll explain who he is at the end of the press conference.
Groundbreaking, he is, man. How groundbreaking do you feel that being a player that represented himself and you set the market twice, how groundbreaking do you think that is for other players who want to represent themselves going forward?
I mean, I'm just showing the other players that it's possible. That it's possible to get done. You know, you can also become a CEO of your business team and get it done.
Brian Barefield, Texas, USA today.
My guy.
How instrumental was it? How instrumental was it to have players like Titus Howard and Green, as far as those players that look up to you as far as your leadership style? How instrumental was that for you signing this contract and wanting to be in Houston?
Showing those guys that it's possible to, like, if you stay consistent, if you work hard, the sky's the limit. You know, the sky's the limit, man. Like, I'm thankful just to be in this position, just to mentor those guys and show those guys that, you know, the sky's the limit. You know, whatever you put your mind to, you can get it done.
You know what, and honestly, like, as he's talking about that and he starts talking about mentoring some of the younger players, I have vivid memories of veteran players talking to me about goal setting, like not limiting yourself with, you know, whatever limitations you think you might have. And then just when it comes down to, hey, what gets rewarded in this league? And I remember Don Davey, who's a guy, like a guy, you want to talk about a guy that's become a good businessman. Don Davey was a veteran defensive lineman when I was a rookie. He went to Wisconsin. He was a 4-time academic All-American, got his master's in engineering while he was playing in Green Bay, and would go on to start his own financial planning company while he was a player. And now he also owns like every Firehouse Subs in Wisconsin and Central Florida. He knows JJ. So, like, or more importantly, JJ knows him because of the whole Wisconsin thing. But Don Davey kind of talking to me about this, about like, hey, this is, you know, just, you know, keep your mouth shut about the things you need to keep your mouth shut about. Don't be a heavy load to carry. That's always been one thing that I was glad somebody told me early on. Like, don't be a guy that's a pain in the ass until you need to be a pain in the ass. I think Laremy probably does a pretty good job of that, of, you know, be a pain in the ass when it's time to negotiate your contract. But apologies. As far as how that affects Kenyon Green, Titus Howard, I think Kenyon Green especially, how Laremy Tunsil treats him, mentors him, brings him along this year is really going to be vital to this team, because Kenyon's at a spot right now where he's got a lot more potential than Kendall Lamb did. And no offense to Kendall Lamb, he's still in the league, but you know, Kenyon's a first round draft pick. I think that Kenyon could lose confidence if he's not coached properly, if veterans don't explain to him where he can improve. And I think Laremy is a big, big part of that. So hopefully Kenyon Green gets on track like he was at the beginning of last season, if he can stay healthy. And I'm just glad Laramy's here to help him out with that, because obviously Laremy had a few obstacles in front of him when he came into the league too.
My guy, what up?
Can you talk about the process of what it was like negotiating for yourself and how quickly this deal came together with you in Houston?
The process was smooth.
So was asked to explain the process of negotiating his own contract.
You know, Nick and DeMeco wanted to get this done. They was very adamant about getting this deal done, and we got it done. And also, like I was telling you, like, I built this team to make things easy for me. Like, I have Saint Omni, I have Laramy, and if I had any questions about the contract, you know, I just hit those guys up and be like, oh, yo, how you feel about this, or what you think about this? And we got it done pretty quick, man. It didn't take long. It was very easy.
The hard play, it didn't take very long. I find that funny because it reminds me of a Seinfeld episode. Isn't it like doesn't George claim that he designed a building or something? He says, it didn't take that long. It was, I think that Saint Omni we'll get to later. One of the things about negotiating your own contract that I've said on this channel and I've said on air is that I think some guys can do it and some can't. I don't think I would have been particularly good at it. I think Laremy, again, because he's, I think, a genuine business person, can handle his own business and relies on that team of advisors. We find out later on the Pat McAfee Show, spoiler alert, that I thought Lamar Jackson maybe was already using Saint Omni. I don't think he is, based on something that he says on the Pat McAfee Show.
Chancellor Johnson, KPRC, you talked about, you said.
Oh, the other thing that he had said there was, I built this team. And Sean Pendergast and I both thought when we first heard that, like, is he talking about building the Texans? Because I feel like that's not quite how you want to phrase it just yet. You know, like, we're building this team. We're not capped out at 4 wins per year. Please, God.
That's something that you want to do, but how important and how nice is it that it's right here, staying with Houston?
Man, H-Town, I'm glad to be here with H-Town for another 4 years. It was very important to stay here because I consider this home. You know, I built a relationship with the coaches. I built a relationship with the players. I built a relationship with the front office. I built a relationship with you guys. So just staying here and talking to you guys daily, talking to my teammates daily and to the coaches, man, it means a lot.
Hey, Linda, Kim Davis with Chalk Talk. Can you talk about, now that this deal is done, your thoughts about your role in the team and your expectations with the whole new system that's going to be in place?
Kim Davis, by the way, who asked that question, is a great lady, and Chalk Talk is she does some good interviews with people.
So as my role in this team, I view myself as the X factor for this whole entire team, the X factor and a mentor for the young guys, you know, the Jalen Petries, the Damian Pierce, the King Greens. I view myself as a mentor, like a captain role. I want to help those guys in any way that I can. And whenever they need me, they can hit me up. If they got any questions, they can hit me up. Like, I'm here for those guys. I'm here for this team. I'm here to contribute to the team and help them win games also.
And then, like, that part too, I got excited about that, the X Factor part. I think that if you start to try to define leadership in the NFL, I think my hands are a little bit, this green pen's not working out. If you try to define leadership by players, it's hard to do because very few teams actually empower their players to be genuine leaders. And some actually have a pretty structured way of doing it in a good way, but not everybody does it on a formal level. So when it comes to players being leaders, there is that mentorship side of it, which is very, very important. But I think a player like Laremy taking genuine ownership in the team, it's hard to do, even for guys that feel like they're franchise players. Sometimes it's just such a volatile profession that guys don't feel like they're genuinely a part of this team. I think Laremy, because he's been through some fires with this team. He was traded here. There was a whole lot of turmoil. There's a whole lot of dysfunction. I do believe that Laremy was never one to kind of put up with BS, whether it be hypothetically from Jack Easterby or anybody else. And I think he's probably stayed true to himself throughout that whole time. So I think just by having ownership in the team and feeling like, hey, he can have a genuine effect on this, that goes a long, long way. Because then what are you doing? You're like, in any organization, you're trying to be sure that everybody's pulling towards this common goal. But in the NFL, you've got 53 plus guys that also have their own career ambitions and everything. And it's harder to find guys that are like genuinely aligned with the team. That's where Laremy, it got me excited when I heard Laremy speaking that way. I got unbelievably excited about DeMeco Ryans actually wanting to come to Houston, because it means there's an exponential factor there. It's cool that he wanted to come here and like this is the job he wanted. It's incredibly, incredibly, incredibly rare that an NFL head coach gives a damn about which city he's going to. Like DeMeco, it was as much about the team as it was the city where his wife is from, like all those things. Like that's a level of ownership that you don't really get. So I'm getting too excited for March, but still.
Sports Talk 790, where you were just saying makes it sound like you feel a little bit like this is your team. Where's your belief right now with DeMeco, changes that have been made this offseason, that it is time to turn things around and start winning?
That was my biggest thing, was staying with the Houston Texans. I believe this organization is going to turn around quickly, actually. This organization is on the uprise, especially getting a guy like DeMeco Ryans to come in this building, a young energy guy, younger coach, and he was actually a player here too. So getting a guy like that to come in this building means a lot. So we're trying to get things turned around.
Okay, there. I'm not going to read too much into this and act like he meant something by using the word young repeatedly, but you juxtapose DeMeco versus Lovie Smith and David Culley. There's a clear distinction there. There's a difference in energy level, and it's cool because DeMeco's not like a Dan Campbell type. He's not going to be talking about biting people's kneecaps or being all gung-ho about stuff. But he's got a different energy. He's got a youthfulness to him. The former player part always helps. Some former players don't do that great a job of like actually relating to players because you choose to go into coaching, you're wired a little bit different, but DeMeco 100% does. So that part of it, again, the buy-in, I don't think would have been there. I don't think we'd be sitting in this same situation right now if let's see, if the free agency strategy were different. I don't know, we might still have Laremy Tunsil. If Lovie Smith or certainly David Culley were still the coach, then yeah, I don't think Laremy Tunsil would have just signed an extension.
Do you think that it says a lot that the Houston Texans believed in you in order to give you this contract, especially coming off the injury that you had, and then you came back and you had, you selected to the Pro Bowl.
Right.
You only gave up 1 sack at
right.
the highest grade of Pro Football Focus. Does it say a lot to you that they believe in you like that?
It means a lot. It means a lot for the team to believe in me, especially coming from this organization that has unbelievable players. J.J. Watt, Andre Johnson, Vince Winford, the Cushions. Like, it means a lot to me that this organization believed in me and gave me another shot, another 4 years to, contribute to the team.
I don't usually do the comments until afterwards, but Rick, I don't know if you're speaking with like some level of knowledge or that's just what you're supposing. I do think there's kind of like there's like a Barry White on testosterone vibe to Laremy that I could imagine is it probably sneaks up on women. I'm guessing that women maybe see Laremy and they're like, oh, that's a big, scary guy. And then he talks to them for a little while and he just kind of lulls them into this hypnotized state where they're taken in by him. But back to football. Oh, where'd he go?
LC, when you look at the moves that we made this offseason, where this year you're seeing more proven commodities come to the building, what is the direction of the Texans, especially when you have 5 picks inside the top 75? These are proven players that you're expected to be immediate contributors to your organization.
First and foremost, the free agents that Nick signed, man, he's cooking right now. He's really cooking. He got some great players coming into the locker room to also contribute to the team and help them win. And speaking of the draft, like what you say, we have 5 picks, 11 picks in the draft, man. The sky's the limit for us. Like, we can really get this organization back on track and get it rolling.
I don't know where he went from. I've been bragging about him being a businessman, and then he just said, "What do we have? 5 picks, 11 picks." I'm gonna let that slide. I don't know where that came from. It's 12 picks now, right? Whatever it is, it's hard to keep track. It's either like a pauper's dozen or a baker's dozen. The picks, for one, I don't think are going to stand at that number. I think that we'll end up having that reduced a little bit, and maybe that's by trading for a wide receiver. We can get into that a little bit later, or just consolidating picks, moving up and down within the draft, because it's hard to. For one, you've got a rookie salary cap, which you guys can follow Texans cap for that stuff. I can't get in. I'm not that nerdy. Nerdy in a good way, I mean, but I'm not that nerdy in a good way. But also, like, there are only so many guys you really like at various positions in the draft, and you don't want to have like 4 guys on your roster that you don't feel that great about, but that you got to spend resources on. So I think they're going to. I think they're going to probably alter that number a little bit. But as far as like Nick cooking, yeah, I think that's something you monitor as a player. I think sometimes it can be good, sometimes it can be bad. In 2005, in that offseason, when the Texans got rid of Aaron Glenn and they made another couple moves that you didn't really necessarily feel great about it. It was a weird feeling that offseason. And I felt like they were doing stuff to try to like make that leap, but it wasn't necessarily stuff that the players themselves got excited about. We won 2 games that season. Those are only 16 games back then, kids. So it was harder to win 3 games, but still, it was a bad season.
Couple more.
Chris Ewing from the Associated Press. You don't really know who's going to be your quarterback.
next year, but whoever it is, you're obviously going to be working really close to them. Does it excite you to know that you're going to be working with a very high draft pick at quarterback that's going to be developing, and like you talked about that mentor role?
Right. I believe in Nick in the front office to draft the best player in this draft and to help us win games. So I'm very excited, whoever they pick at the number 2 pick and the number 12 pick, to come in here and help us win games. I'm excited. I'm ready to get it done. Like I said, I view myself as an X factor for protecting and a mentor for those guys, whoever come in.
Yeah, and again, him saying that he believes in Nick, I do think there's a part of Tunsil that, whether because it's almost like, I don't care if it's because he thinks it's the best business strategy or if he just genuinely believes that you got to back up the GM and back up the head coach. I think that's where he is right now, and like again, that's another valuable thing. I mean, it's tough because it's a business, and in the NFL, there are times where, you know, as a player, you can't just wholeheartedly side with management no matter what. You got to think about your players, the union, all that stuff. But there's also a time where you got to tell guys, like, listen, like, quit pitching. You know, like, we got to get to work. All right, we got to win games. There's a time where you got to tell guys, like, quit whining about practice. Quit whining about this is too much, that's too much. It's a delicate balancing act, because there's also times where you got to tell the coach, hey, coach, I think we might be going too hard. So I think Tunsil's at that spot. Like, he's this, and it's just really cool to see this version of him. And I think that it's always been there. He just hasn't necessarily felt comfortable given the leadership and the way things were. You know, and as far as the other part of it, like, yes, he got traded here. You look at Brandon Cooks. I don't think Brandon Cooks is stoked about being a guy who's been traded 4 times in his career. There's something to be said for just, putting your flag in the ground and saying, "Oh, this is where I'm going to be." And Tunsil, like you said, he's got his tendrils into Houston now. Like, this is where his home is. But it's you just make that, at a certain point when you're as good as he is and you've got the ability to control it. It's about more than just getting the paycheck.
Not to go too far back in the past, but were you sort of extra motivated by the way 2021 went? The fact that you only played 5 games, the team wasn't very good, and then you kind of come back in the year and improve yourself. Were you extra motivated by that? Maybe you lost a little respect for you.
Yeah, y'all know what motivated me. It was that little article that came out that called me a very good starter. I didn't like that one. So that's what motivated me. Still to this day, no matter if I'm the highest paid or not, that tweet or that article is always going to motivate me to be an even better player.
So that was I believe, if I remember correctly, it was Pro Football Focus, and they had tweeted out something about being a very good player. Like, Laremy Tunsil was like on the second tier. There were elite players, and there were oh boy, I think he started. Oh, very good starter. Okay, here, I'll share this with you if it allows me. Okay, here we go. You see that there we go. Very good starter. That was in response to something that had called him a very good starter. You know what? Another lesson for the kids, which is that if you set your standards to if you set a certain standard, very good can be an insult. Very good means that you're in the instance of whatever ranking he was looking at, that was, one of there were 5 guys above him, and then there were 6, 7, 8 were him. Like, that's not his standard. So he's going to take that as an insult. There was that. That's what we should all resolve to do, is find a higher level, a higher standard by which we're insulted. So, like, if somebody calls me a very good radio host, I'm going to be insulted from now on, instead of just like stupendous, best ever, incredible, YouTuber beyond compare, all those things. That's my level. If you're an accountant and somebody calls you a very good accountant, I say you slap them in the face and you kick them out the door. You're a better accountant than a very good accountant. Damn it.
Hello. Unbelievable. We did it again. Special moment for sure.
Hey, Laremy.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions about like him negotiating the contract and everything. If you're just joining us, we've covered it ad nauseum. It's very impressive that he's done this twice, negotiating his own contract, but having a team. And we are going to, in a little bit, explain who exactly this Saint Omni person is.
You know that you wanted Houston to be your future when you wanted to be committed here. When did that click for you?
When I got here in 2019 and just being embraced by the fans and being embraced by my teammates and the coaching staff, I knew that the Houston Texans was going to be home for me.
All set?
Thank you.
Solid?
All set.
I appreciate y'all.
All right.
Sure.
So, as he started to get up here, I don't know if they, in this video, I don't think they showed somebody, Patrick Storm, who's a good follow on Twitter. I don't know if he tweeted this out or not. I think he may know, or at least has an idea of who Saint Omni is. And Saint Omni has been referenced a couple times as an advisor, or if somehow he's somebody who's connected to Laremy Tunsil and has created quite a stir in a lot of conspiracy theories. Ian Rapoport was the first time I had seen it, because Ian Rapoport credited Saint Omni with, which, by the way, Saint Omni is an awesome name. Saint Omni, who's this advisor to Laremy Tunsil and Roquan Smith, and is not an NFL certified agent, which is where it gets interesting, because technically he's not supposed to be talking to NFL teams. So I don't think he does, but he advises Laremy Tunsil in his negotiations. So Saint Omni, which is a badass name, which we figured the formula there is like a religious figure followed by, my God, my hands. What the hell? I'm using a pencil now, and I've got stigmata. It's a religious name followed by a hotel. So one of our listeners suggested that I be Pope Zaza, which I think is an incredible name. Sean Pendergast is Deacon Doubletree, and I encourage all of you to come up with your own Saint Zaza, or no, it's a Saint Omni name. This was the Pat McAfee Show talking to Ian Rapoport. We've also got Pat McAfee talking to Laremy Tunsil about this Saint Omni. If you find yourself wondering who the hell is Saint Omni, you'll know a little bit more in a second.
Saint Omni. Did you talk about him? Have you broke down who this is? Who Saint Omni is the
Okay, so I'm going to read this because Pat does this thing where he talks a lot. Trust me, I'm not criticizing. I got the same thing. Ian Rapoport said, per Saint Omni, when he first broke this news, Texan star left tackle Laremy Tunsil is once again the highest paid tackle in the NFL history, securing a 3-year deal worth $75 million, with $50 million fully guaranteed and $80 million in total guarantees. The blindside protector does a true reset on the market. Tunsil represented himself. Per Saint Omni, and that's good. Everybody got it's, and when you first see that, like per Saint Omni, like you don't know what it means. It was so confusing. It was I felt like I was like back when I now realized I used to have concussions a lot when I played in the NFL, but I would like try to read stuff and I would be so confused. That's what I felt again. And then Florio went off on this Saint Omni, because Florio, he gets a lot of his info from agents, and I don't know what the conflict is there, but he didn't seem all that enthused about this Saint Omni. So Pat is fascinated by Saint Omni, and he realizes, like, okay, Rapoport's got to fess up something about who this Saint Omni is.
mysterious figure in my eyes.
Yep.
Who is just like, hey, you want the greatest deal of all time? Fucking get Saint Omni in there.
Yeah.
This Saint Omni.
Oh, and I cut this up. Oh, no. All right, guys. Sorry.
My guy.
All right. This is where I streamline everything by like putting it all into one video. But then all it takes is one of my little stigmata hands to screw everything up. So let me get it right back to where we'll just start from.
I appreciate y'all. For sure.
We'll just let it roll for a minute. So the other thing about Saint Omni is whether or not he's representing
Saint Omni. Did you talk about him?
Whether or not he's representing Lamar Jackson, and he dishes on that in a little bit.
You broke down who this is? Who Saint Omni is this mysterious figure in my eyes.
Yep.
Who is just like, hey, you want the greatest deal of all time? Fucking get Saint Omni in there.
Yeah.
This Saint Omni guy, not only for him, for Roquan, for others, is apparently a weapon. A weapon. Who is he? Who is he? And why is he not a certified agent? Why can't more people just openly work with him?
He is an advisor. He advises guys. Sometimes
He's an advisor, which sounds like Ian looks really calm, cool, and collected. But I don't know if you're on the witness stand. I would feel like he was just trying to buy time.
players do not have agents. Sometimes he advises players who do have agents, but essentially an advisor. The player has the communication with the team, and he helps them out. But I just know
That makes sense.
that he does exist. He is a person.
You sure?
And
you
he
seen
advises players, and
It's just a burner.
sometimes
phone.
Yeah, could be.
Like you, Laremy.
Mm-hmm.
You've met.
So Pat there says maybe it's just a burner account. Somebody brings up a good point here. Mike Cameron says Omni means all. Yes, it's a hotel, but I think this might be the meaning they are going for. Yeah, that makes more sense. But I like, but it's a lot more fun than to go with the Latin term or whatever it might be. But I appreciate that input, Mike. That does make a lot more sense. But there's something ritzy about. Speaking of the Ritz, St. Ritz Cameron. Yeah, okay.
At Saint Omni.
I haven't met this
Oh, and yes. Have you met Saint Omni? Ian Rapoport says yes.
person. Yes,
Bullshit.
In person?
in person.
Ah!
Yeah, but see, they could hire someone. They could hire an actor. Hey, you're Saint Omni today.
Is it? Yeah, bingo. Could. Absolutely could. do
Actual
that.
name or an alias? Gotta be an alias.
I will have no further comments.
Yes!
See?
Yes!
All right. Okay. No comments on whether it's an alias or not. I don't know. Somebody had pointed out, Pat McAfee points out that, sometimes a business technique is almost create a fictitious boss or somebody you got to talk to, because then you can always say, all right, listen, I gotta clear it with Mr. Kim. That was the example he gave. I don't know what that's from, but I got to clear it with Mr. Kim. And you create either a buffer or maybe it's a burner account type thing. I think it's an actual person. I think because he represented Roquan Smith too, I think it's an actual person. Maybe it's an amalgamation of people, but I think it's an actual person.
Dude.
Okay. Dude.
The process.
Okay, so McAfee has Laremy Tunsil on. Omar over with the Texans does a great job of getting guys on with these podcasts and everything that the players actually like being on. So of course, on the same day, I thought that was the same sweatshirt, but it's not. He's got a little Texans logo on there. He was on yesterday with McAfee.
Didn't take long, guys. Both sides was ready to get the deal done, and that's what we did. My biggest thing is I hired this great team. I hired Saint Omni. I have Lala.
Hold on. Oh. We did not know we were going to get into this quickly.
We got to.
We are so excited. We do got to.
Who is this guy? We want to know. We looking for him. We can't.
Is it Pac-Man Jones, by the way? I didn't have no idea Pac-Man was, I guess, like a semi-regular guest on here. It looks like he's got his own spot over there, like he's full-time. People, fill me in on the Pat McAfee Show and exactly what Pac-Man Jones is doing.
Big fans.
Yeah.
We are big fans of Saint Omni, but it is like one of the most interesting conversations I've ever seen on the internet. In the modern day, Saint Omni should be able to be found quickly, and we should do that. You would think Saint Omni would want everybody to know. It's a complete opposite. It sounds like. Who is he? How'd you meet him?
Saint Omni, that my business partner, a mastermind, a trusted confidant. He just always there when I need him.
So.
Whoa!
That was
He's
him.
always there when I need him.
Oh, it was the guy walking behind him. Okay, I hadn't watched this whole thing before. Let's just go back a couple. Look, I'm getting the hang of this, guys. I'm learning how to use modern technology.
But it is like one of the most interesting conversations I've ever seen on the internet. In the modern day, Saint Omni should be able to be found quickly, and we should do that. You would think Saint Omni would want everybody to know. It's a complete opposite. It sounds like. Who is he? How'd you meet him?
Saint Omni, that my business partner, a mastermind, a trusted confidant. He just always there when I need him.
There he is. Oh, that's, you know what? That's somebody else had.
Whoa!
He had two phones too, didn't he? That's definitely Saint Omni.
That was
He's
him.
always there when I need him.
That was him.
Hold on, was that his ass right there, Laremy?
That was him. Can you have that guy walk past?
One more time. We did a little slower gait.
just know he's always there when I need him, guys.
That was one of the greatest works I've seen in a long time.
That's unbelievable.
Which Pat McAfee, by the way, he calls it a work there. You know, he's got his wrestling gig. He's got this. I know he's thinking about selling to a network or somebody. Like he wants somebody to take everything off his plate. We talk about big theme of this so far. This live stream has been Laremy Tunsil, the business person, and having a team underneath you. It feels like Pat McAfee, who has a child on the way, is getting to that point where he realizes, oh, wow, this is a lot. Like, I'm managing a lot. I'm negotiating my own contracts with these entities. And, like, he just wants somebody to, like, take over for him. And the crazy thing is, you know, like Barstool did that. They sold to a bigger company. They get a CEO. They kind of professionalize things. And, you know, you get actual business people in charge, and they just blew the hell up. McAfee's already blown up. I think the smartest thing for him to do for like a work-life balance, from a work-life balance aspect, but then also just for maximizing revenue, he could take off because he already doesn't like, he should have other podcasts underneath him. Like his YouTube channel, he could easily have like 4 other shows on there that would immediately get traction. Like if he really hand selected them and everything. And like, he just probably doesn't want to manage it. He doesn't want to deal with it. You'll let a CEO do that stuff. Whoops, wrong one. I don't need you guys seeing what my stream looks like.
That was really good. That was awesome.
Wow.
AJ, go ahead, pal. Jeez.
Do you think you're going to other players are going to be jumping on the bandwagon and trying to hire Saint Omni as well with all the
Okay, so this is where the Lamar Jackson part comes in, right? Like, are other people going to jump on the bandwagon
for you?
And I hope so. Like I said before, this guy's a mastermind. Like, he get things done.
Yeah, I'd say.
All right, so you got yours done really quick. Lamar haven't got his done. If you could speak to Lamar right now about your guy, that just whoever the guy is, or he or she or him or her or bot or computer.
Or ghost.
Or
yeah.
ghost.
Or ghost. That's awesome.
I'm Lamar, role play. Hey, man, I need an agent.
Hey, Lamar, let's sit down and talk.
Okay.
I have my guy reach out to you, and we can get things done. We can get things rolling.
So that was interesting to me because I kind of assumed that Saint Omni, I don't know why I'm saying, like, I don't know how I have a hard time remembering the name Saint Omni, which is like the most unique name of a potentially actual person I've ever heard. And as Pat McAfee points out, it's the age of the internet. Like, you should be able, that's how we know it's a pseudonym, because you should be able to find it pretty easily. Like, a person named Saint Omni is going to pop up in the records at some point if you just search it. So I feel like it's a relatively new creation and maybe not a legal name. But look, Pope Zaza understands these things. Pope Zaza, all I know is that when I use the name Pope Zaza, I get every restaurant reservation I want, and I always get patched through to whomever I'm calling. Nobody turns down a call from Pope Zaza or Saint Omni without even knowing who they are, because it's a name that just sounds like you are either a celebrity's child or somebody important. So I think that, what do we know? Laremy Tunsil is gung-ho, all in on the Texans. I think part of that is that he's been impressed by DeMeco Ryans and by Nick Caserio. It makes me retroactively a little put out by Brandon Cooks that he didn't maybe give DeMeco and Caserio a chance, except that I wouldn't be surprised if Cooks just, feels like Caserio either did him wrong or, and I wouldn't agree with him. I would just think that's business, and that's what happens sometimes in the NFL. You can't plan long-term in the NFL when it comes to, wanting your people in place or whatever it might be. I think Cooks maybe just had some expectations that fell through. So that's all there is to it. I think that next
first and second.
Oh, okay. Just for the hell of it. This is this should be fun. This is Laremy Tunsil versus Micah Parsons. Let's see. Do you remember? Says not going to edit. I don't know if you're. Oh, okay. This is Laremy Tunsil versus Micah Parsons, because you remember in that game, despite all of the other various weird things that happened, this is the game Jeff Driscoll started, right? I haven't watched this yet. But Micah Parsons versus Laremy Tunsil.
Set up the screen, a little bobble by Moore. That slows
to know, hey, my guy made a mistake.
This is where I'm going to have to, I'll have to cut this off when I post it because it's going to get demonetized right quick. All right, there's Micah Parsons up the top.
On third down and 2, it's Pierce with a hole, spinning. And
There's, you know, obviously Micah Parsons makes the tackle there, but like, just watch. The thing about Tunsil is like, there's just such an easiness about, his movement. Not a laziness, but an easiness.
And once he gets pinned inside, Pierce knew exactly what to do.
And that right there,
that hole, Micah's got outside contained.
that's just honestly, even though Micah Parsons makes the play, Tunsil's playing the angles there.
And Van Der Esch has to go fill that. Look at this. There they go, that same formation with
Van Der Esch, former potential almost Texan, but went back to the Cowboys. Denzel Perryman and Littleton we'll talk about later.
Other players on the outside.
Oh, there was that stupid formation they used to use, and they brought everybody back in. There's an Amber Alert half an hour ago when I recorded this.
Here's Pierce trying to find some running room.
Distracted by that Amber Alert. Damn it.
Second and goal. Get over there. Exactly.
You guys have to tell me what happened on that one.
Here's Pierce
okay.
Again. And the rookie.
And again, that's where I think that
the kid knows how to tote the rock. He's got more rushing yards now than he did.
I'll give Pep Hamilton credit for that. I think that maybe Tunsil should be used more as a puller because he's just really athletic in space.
Because he just didn't get the opportunities.
And on third and goal, a quick
this one.
Driscoll doesn't get in.
Defense. Penalties after this is to the goal. Still third down.
No, they don't convert.
Right
it's just
middle.
They don't.
It's
third and short.
Sneak. And you see they just got offsides by maybe a nose hair. Using him as an extension of the run game, potentially some quick game. You see him pointing out who the receivers have to block. Get ready for a handoff.
And there is that handoff. Pierce up the middle.
To catch on to that pattern as
Mostly the thing to notice here.
Watch them crash down on the end. That's Jeff Driscoll all the way. He's got to keep that ball.
There's the motion man. They give it to Pierce. And Pierce.
Really with with Tunsil versus Parsons.
His back foot wasn't firm. Watch it right there.
Oh boy, Kenyon Green. That was okay. It's hard not to watch Kenyon Green on this getting beat. He had a rough down. Again, Kenyon Green in space getting Van Der Esch out of there with his stupid neck roll.
Driscoll off the
that wasn't really Micah Parsons versus Laremy Tunsil on that one.
Start of the third quarter.
It's nice by Driscoll. Okay. That was Laremy and Kenyon.
First down and 10. Checks it down to a
sorting things out there and actually keeping his feet is impressive athletically on that one.
Inexperience is so much more difficult to accomplish.
So you can watch the thing about Tunsil is Parsons is a speed guy, but without necessarily great power. He's not like a Von Miller guy who's fast but also has power. That was something Von Miller developed. I can't remember. I think it was going into his third season. You could tell he gained 10 pounds and it seemed like it was all because he'd started really hitting his legs. And that's when he became a real menace, was when he could convert speed to power. And I don't think Parsons is quite there yet. Tunsil does a really good job against guys like that.
Free play. Movement up front and the shot down.
Exactly right. And experience or no experience, Mills is leading it.
That one, with a cut block like that, when the ball's coming out quickly, that's just what you do. It's not, you might look at that and think, oh man, if Driscoll had to hold on to the ball, he would have been screwed. Then that's on Driscoll.
Out in space and
it's
using
a stupid
the
formation.
As his friend. It's a funky formation for you.
And Pierce. Today, but the Texans have always motioned back tight again. They did
exactly right. They're trying to get a picture of it.
So again, this is the ease with which he handled that. It never looked like he was in trouble.
Trying to get a little breathing room for this Texans offense, and he'll push it out near Benjamin in the backfield now. Driscoll from
that one was good by Parsons, but I'm going to blame. Oh God, Kenyon Green.
In trouble in the backfield.
Okay, all right. This one. You got to watch the footwork. I'm not going to try to rewind it because I'll probably rewind too far. But just look at Kenyon Green, who stepped down to his right. Whereas you don't even know anything about offensive line pass protection or anything to know that Kenyon Green made a mental error there, and he paid for it dearly.
Big 98 got this thing going. Oh man!
As did Damian Pierce. So that's the kind of stuff that hopefully it'll change. That was another issue in this game on the goal line. There were a couple instances in which Kenyon Green was not doing what everybody else was doing. So between coaching and hopefully age, that changes.
Driscoll will keep it.
Driscoll,
Looking
or
Let one of these guys catch and run.
Cowboys
just
rush
look at his feet there.
to the sideline.
One-on-one, just a 9-stop route. Sell the go.
We will get to the one part that I know that somebody's going to bring up here in a minute.
See if they run it.
Jordan Richard, I apologize about your horrible flashbacks, but there's good. Just focus in on Tunsil until the very end here, until the very, very end of this game.
Go right back to the well with it again. Yep.
It's Pierce this time who gets the carry. He's got the first. No timeouts for Houston. Cowboys rush 3. Ogunbowale.
That was a good rush by Parsons, but he came free late, and it was good for a completion for an electrifying half yard to Ogunbowale.
Man, Mills is up against it now.
Mills with pressure up the middle, directing traffic on the run, throwing over the middle.
Oh, that's my quarterback who shall not be named by name. That was a nice throw.
False
start.
Oh, that's going to hurt him.
Okay, this was a bad stretch of false starts by Tunsil. All right, let's watch this. For one, oh my God. Look at this. Every single one of those offensive linemen is illegally aligned too deep in the backfield. Like, they should all be called. As a defensive lineman, I'm disgusted at what the NFL has allowed to happen. The offensive line is supposed to have their face mask is supposed to break the belt line of the center. There might be one guy there who's legal because the belt line is like, you can see Quesenberry is right there on the yard line.
And just
Son of a
crucial.
Yeah, and that one's sometimes Tunsil will claim that he was timing it perfectly. That one's not timed perfectly.
False start right there. You see him get the early start. 78, Laremy Tunsil, who they acquired from Miami.
And what I would say here is, because that's not the last time we're going to see this, if my memory serves me correctly, is that Tunsil doesn't need to do that. That is something that guys do because they're trying to help out with the athletic, fast guys like Micah Parsons. You can see here that Micah Parsons' speed and athleticism is not one bit of an issue for Laremy Tunsil. So, I mean, it makes things harder for him, but I think that more is lost than gained, perhaps, by his egregiously bad false start habit that he has.
Watch him try and oh, wow, 2 in a row.
Number 78, 5-yard penalty, second down.
The moment feeling pretty big for Houston.
That's that Micah Parsons effect.
Yeah.
You see him, you got him barreling down on you.
Which is a shame because Tunsil was getting the better of Micah Parsons in this game.
Jump start. It was funny talking to him in that production meeting, saying, how do you know you're in the game? You need a 5
receivers for Prescott. 5 rushers.
Oh, okay. So we'll have those are going to be some Denzel Perryman highlights. So Denzel Perryman, we can zoom through a lot of his stuff. I want to wrap up Laremy Tunsil when we get to the end of this stuff here. Boy, that was a rough one. So yeah, I remember breaking that down on YouTube with Drew Hodgson about just Laremy Tunsil's habit of doing that. That's the thing. Okay, so we'll get to him in a moment. As far as Denzel Perryman, I'm excited about him. I think that, look, he's over 30 years old. The Texans now have kind of an old team, like a way older team than you expect, and it's just that it's okay because they're all on 1-year contracts. There's not going to be dead money attached to it. I think Laremy Tunsil ends up bringing a whole lot of veteran leadership and ownership in the squad that when it comes to having a rookie quarterback, which we presumably will, whether it's Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, or somehow somebody different, having that veteran presence on the offensive line is big. Kenyon Green being in his second year is big. Shaq there at right guard, I think, is going to make a big difference. One of the biggest questions right now is just at center, and hopefully that gets answered in the draft. I'm still a little hesitant about having a rookie center and a rookie quarterback. Ben Jones is still out there, as well as a couple other guys. The guy the Texans signed from Miami, Dieter, is could be adequate, but it's not anything I feel awesome about. He didn't start on the Dolphins last year, and he was okay. He was better than when he did start a couple years ago, he was better than Quesenberry was at center for the Texans last year. But still, Tony says, will Clay Travis join the show? I don't get the joke, but other than that, I'm good. So let's get to Denzel Perryman. So Denzel Perryman comes to the Texans, and I think one thing you're going to notice about him is that, like, he very much looks the part of a middle linebacker. Like, he's athletic enough. He can cover in space. I've described him kind of as he's like a muted version of Zach Cunningham. Like, Zach Cunningham is bigger than a middle linebacker, awesome against the run, but really struggled in pass protection. I think Denzel Perryman is not as electrifying against the run as Zach Cunningham was, but he is a better he's better in pass coverage. He's more responsible. He understands his responsibilities. It's just he's not going to cover a tight end man on man all over the field. We get a feel for him here just watching his highlights. This is when he was with the Raiders.
Picked off by Perryman. Raiders are in business in the second half.
And we'll talk about Corey Littleton alongside this, because Corey Littleton and Denzel Perryman were actually on this team together.
And the ball comes out. Could be just the spark the Raiders need. 77 comes in with that right hand.
So this one, for one, by the way, I don't think recovered fumbles should be part of a highlight reel.
Defense, but they have played tonight. They have limited a very Judy in motion. Pitch out Javante.
Right here, though, like he can run in space.
With time, over the middle, intercepted.
He's got a pretty good feel for in zone, like reading the quarterback. I've been impressed with him. I've been impressed with him in coverage. Like, he plays above the level of his athleticism. He's smart about hitting people.
Yes, 311-pound fullback.
I don't think that's
John
accurate.
Abram goes low and started to do as well. Grease, they're starting to help out Villanueva over there. The Las Vegas 40. Percent trying to deal with the rush. Dump off is so quick. It foiled the screen.
And then I've got a mic'd up of Denzel Perryman too. He was mic'd up versus the Texans, which is probably a smart job by the Raiders PR staff.
Delivers a small one out of the backfield. Going to be short.
Yeah, it shouldn't have made the highlight reel.
10, 29-yard line, and Sanders first and goal. Mahomes stumbles, gets up.
That one.
And down he goes.
When you see him rush, and I think
to be coming, but when
he's hug rushing there. I don't think it was a design blitz. He just read the running back and came. And yeah, it's a broken play, but he came flying up.
And then he
Yeah.
took it. He saw the opening.
And I don't think I don't know who the color commentator was there on that play specifically. I think he actually recognized that that he had the opportunity because the back was blocking. Which is a nice hug rush. Okay, so we talk about leadership a lot. Like, I think Christian Kirksey is a good leader. I think that when you bring in guys like Denzel Perryman, if you're bringing in a veteran on a 1-year contract, you want to be sure he's a good dude. And all the reports are that he's like a genuinely good dude. His teammates like him. He had a shoulder injury at the end of last season, and being banged up has been an issue for him before. So I don't think that Perryman's going to end up being a long-term solution. I think it's somebody that can hopefully mentor potentially a 2nd or 3rd round draft pick alongside Christian Harris. Christian Harris will probably play will linebacker. There'll be a competition between, Perryman, Littleton, maybe Christian Kirksey. It's getting kind of crowded there with veteran players right now.
Baby, hey, fat ass LBs on 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's get it, Diablo.
Oh, that was a good breakdown. Okay, the headbutting I disapprove of, because I swear to God, I gave at least one teammate a concussion just by giving a little, like, let's get psyched up headbutt before a game once. Ronaldo win. He's forgiven me for it. And then that, as far as that goes too, somebody actually asked me about that. In warmups, it's very much just a thud 'em up affair. before a game. Every now and then you'll have some rookie that's trying to make the team, and he gets dealt with harshly if he tries to impress the coaches by blocking you hard during warmups.
Let's get it, baby. Give me your gloves. Give me your gloves. No. Yeah. You can get some more. Give me your gloves. Yeah.
Okay.
Hurst, let me get your gloves.
All right. Now, there's the thing. There's always a question. Is he stealing teammates' gloves and giving them to children every game, or only when he's mic'd up? I won't hate him for if it's only when he's mic'd up. It's not a bad strategy. He just gets extra points if this is something he commonly does. The fact that these guys had to be informed of what he's doing makes me wonder whether this is just a mic'd up affair.
Get your gloves, get to a kid. Hey, it's going to be a physical one today, baby. Hey, let's be great. I'm mic'd up. I ain't going to say much.
Okay, so now a couple things I want you to watch here. One is just watch his movement. Like, this is a middle linebacker. This is what you want. And then I don't like picking on players at this time of year. I think Quisenberry has potential to be better than he was last year. You know, maybe in this system he'll really thrive. Maybe the coaching will be different and he'll respond to it. But he shows up a lot in the highlights that they choose to show here, where Quisenberry's just standing around. Yeah.
No place to go. He's wrestled down to the 25-yard line. Snap to Mills. Settles back. Throws Collins. Has it at the 45. Trying to cut upfield, and he's hit by Perryman at the waist. Here's right up the middle. And down 40. And he lunges forward to the 38-yard line.
Hey,
Perryman there to make
just like at a family barbecue, baby. We hang out, we have fun, we communicate. That's all we need to do today. You know what I'm saying? Hey, the camera's right behind us.
Hey, have fun and communicate. Honestly, it's good advice for your high school players. Like, a lot of times, I think more high school players than not actually need to have the intensity tamped down a little bit. Like, you gotta practice like it's war, and then play like it's a game on Sundays. Just relax. It took me until like my 7th year in the NFL to realize, like, oh wow, my entire football career I've been burning way too much energy just trying to act like I'm in the movie The Program or something, and it doesn't need to be that way.
Now to your left, yeah, they're trying to maneuver. Yes, Sirski. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go.
For those of you just joining us, this is Denzel Perryman. Yeah. Eluding a block by an unnamed Texans center.
Hey, make sure your mouthpiece and your chin strap buckle today, you know what I'm saying? Oh, I hear you say, look up, child.
This video's already been demonetized. I'm not worried about the royalties on this song. Okay. You see the movement in space. I mean, I'm not evaluating him like a college kid. Okay, here we go. That's our man Tunsil. That's our man Tunsil actually getting hands on the guy that he's trying to block. There wasn't a hold.
In this run game, we need to build walls. We need to build walls, make the ass run dimension. Hey, we're doing a good job, baby. Hey, 78 was beelining. That boy coming free ski.
Talking about Tunsil, beelining.
Hello. Hello. Oh, hey. Hey.
I don't know who he's saying oh hey to in the audience. I don't know if he's single. If he's single, maybe it was to a young lady. If he's married, it was probably to just a cute kid or something.
I'm just saying, hey, let's get it, baby. Come on. Let's get it, dude.
First and 10 ball, the Raiders 28. Snap. Pierce stretching out to the right. Cuts upfield, and he's upended at the 27.
You gonna push out like that? Goddamn. Come on, man.
Hey, Brevin, by the way, I checked the penalties, and Brevin Jordan did not have a bunch of penalties this year. So he needs to work on his blocking, but at least he doesn't have a bunch of holds to go along with it. Pharaoh Brown, in my mind, I was trying to remember whether it was Brevin we were getting frustrated with a couple years ago, but it was Pharaoh Brown who was like top 5 in the league in penalties. Pharaoh Brown now of the Cleveland Browns, the Deshaun Watsoners.
Hey, every week, my boy. Every week, every day.
Beloved by his teammates, obviously. Good locker room guy. He's got abs slightly better than mine. He's been on the ab roller. It's important. Abs, mostly diet and genetics, kids. All right, so I'm pretty optimistic about Perryman for 1 year. I want to hit one of these comments about these 1 year deals from Dan. I think the criticism of the 1 year deals is based on the feeling that there's not a long-term plan. I understand that. I think sometimes we lose sight of the fact that they have a lot of draft picks. There are so many draft picks, and I know last year's first round picks have not looked awesome yet. Kenyon Green's got potential. Derek Stingley, we're going to find out. Derek Stingley be doing a lot of the things that Sauce Gardner did this past year. So we'll find out about that. And I think the long-term plan, like this has been pretty obvious. I think the last couple of years, they were resetting the roster. They were signing guys, journeyman types to 1 year deals and in hopes of tutoring some of these younger guys. Now they're actually signing good players to bigger contracts, still the 1 and 2 year deals, but you've got all these draft picks. You've got 4 first round picks in the next 2 years. You've got multiple second and third round picks. So, I mean, it's as simple as that. You're trying to build from underneath while finding quality and being a more competitive roster. My voice is shot, so I am going to leave now before I lose it completely. I have to work tomorrow. Please subscribe, tell a friend about it, all that stuff. You guys are awesome for hanging out with me. Thank you.